Hello and welcome to my channel, Yoga Total Fitness. Today we'll be doing some deep hip stretches specifically for runners. So if you're ready, you can kick off your running shoes and I'll meet you on your mat. Okay, so we're going to start off in a yogi squat. So you can stand with your feet wide, bend your knees and sit all the way down to the mat, finding a nice comfortable position, wherever that may be for you. If your heels can't touch the mat, you can rest them on a folded towel. So once you're in a squat position, all we're going to do is walk our hands forward as far as we can go. Pause there, exhale, lean forward and stay there for 5 seconds. And walk your hands back down. Lift your hands off the mat, pushing your hips open with your elbows. Place your hands back down on the mat, walk them forward again. Keeping your balance, keep your heels on the mat. If you started there, just walk your hands all the way forward without falling over. Exhale, lean forward, stay there for 5 seconds, and walk your hands back. Sit up, lift your hands, pushing your knees open with your elbows, keeping your back straight as much as you can. Bring your hands back down to the floor, walk your hands forward, just a few paces. Exhale, lean forward, keeping your balance, staying there for 5 seconds, and walk your hands back. Staying in this position, all we're going to do is lift your hands into the air. Try not to use your hands and bring your right knee to the mat, lift it back into the place. Trying to keep your balance without using your hands. Tap your left knee on the mat, bring it back. Okay, we're going to do 5 of these. That's 2. You can go at your own pace. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, you can sit back on the mat. Bring the soles of your feet together for butterfly pose. Using your hands to keep your feet together. Bring your heels as close as you can to your midline. And we're just going to bounce our knees up and down here. I'm just going to stay here for a couple of breaths. Okay, what you're going to do is place your hands on the mat, walk your hands forward as much as you can, exhaling as you walk your hands forward. Inhale slowly through your nose, exhale, walk your hands as far as you can. Once you've reached the end of your limit, we're just going to stay there for a couple of breaths. Breathing in and out through your nose. And release, walk your hands back. Take your left heel, place it on the outside of your right buttock. Take your right foot, place it on the outside of your left thigh. Take your left hand, hug your right knee, twisting your body, starting from the lower part of your spine, working your way all the way up to your shoulders. Inhale through your nose, lifting your crown higher. Exhale, twist deeper into the pose. With every inhale, you're going to lengthen your spine up. And with every exhale, you're going to twist deeper into the pose. And change to the other side. So it's your right foot to your left butt, left foot to your right thigh. Take your right arm up your left knee and exhale as you twist, keeping your torso nice and upright. You can turn your gaze towards the back. With each inhale, you're going to lengthen your spine up. With every exhale, you're going to twist deeper into the pose, starting the twist in the lower part of your spine and working your way up to your shoulders. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to twist, and release. Come into a standing position. Next, we're going to do goddess pose. You're going to stand your feet as wide as just outside your hip width, maybe a little bit wider. You're going to push your hips back to come into a squat or a sumo squat position. From here, you're going to lift onto your toes. We're going to do 5 of those. Bring your heels back down, lift 2, and back down, lift 3, come back down. With each lift, just pause for 1 second at the top and come back down. One more, lift onto your toes and come back down. Come back into standing position. Stand with your feet wide again. We're going to do Cossack squats, but we're not going to do reps. We're just going to hold it there. So with your legs wide and your toes pointing forward, bend your right knee, pushing it to the front of the mat. Lift your left foot, toes pointing up. Right foot, toes pointing forward. You can use your hands to come into the pose or into the stretch. We're just going to stay here. I'm just going to hold. If the heel of your right foot is off the mat, it's totally fine. I'm going to change to the other side. You can use your hands for support. Your left foot toes pointing forward and your right foot toes pointing up at the ceiling. Sit back with your hips, flexing that right foot, using your hands for balance. Try and keep your torso nice and upright. We're just going to stay here for about 5 breaths. Making sure to keep that right leg engaged with your foot flexed. Okay, from here we're going to start on the left side with our next exercise. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit back onto the floor, tap the mat with that left knee, bring it back up, lean forward, come back into the Cossack squat using your hands, staying low, moving into the right side Cossack. Come into the position, sit back down, tap the mat with your knee, bring your knee back, lifting your hips off the mat again. You can go at your own pace. We're going to do 5 on each side. Okay, so let's go. Use your hands for support to move from left to right. Come into Cossack, sit down on the mat, tap the mat with your knee. Try and do it without using your hands. That's 2. It's 3. You go at your own pace. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. This is a good exercise to work on because it works a number of muscles. So you can take your time, practice it, do it slowly, and over time you'll get much better at it. You can move more freely and it won't feel so uncomfortable. Okay, so our next pose is going to be a pigeon pose. So you're going to come into a low lunge. We can start with the right leg, using your hands for balance. Place your right shin on the mat. Keeping your hips squared. yeah, everyone's pigeon is going to look different here. So you're going to try and get your shin parallel to the mat as much as you can, making sure to keep your hips squared. Try and sit upright. Keeping your torso nice and straight. Keeping your back leg engaged, toes pointing back. You can use your hands for support in whichever way you need. Like I said, everyone's pigeon pose is going to look different. This is quite a deep stretch, and it would really benefit if you would take the time to practice this pose independently. And release, sit back down. Swap your legs. So you're going to come with that left shin onto the mat. Bring your left leg back, lifting off the mat to position yourself. Make sure your back foot toes are pointing back with the top of your foot on the mat, hips squared to the front. You can use a yoga block underneath your thigh to give you some more support. This will help you to stay longer in the pose. It will also help you to keep your balance a bit more. Keep your torso nice and upright, chin lifted, breathing in and out through your nose. Making sure your hips are staying squared. Don't let your back hip tilt to the outside. And release. Okay, we're going to move into a low lunge. You're staying on your hands and knees. Just bring your right foot forward. Okay, so your back knee is on the mat. Your front shin is forming a 90-degree angle with the mat. You don't want your knee going past your ankle. So from here, place your right hand on your right knee. Inhale, lift your left hand up and over to your right side, stretching your side body and the inside of your hip. Just going to stay here for 5 breaths. Bring that left hand back down to the mat. Using your right hand, push into your left hand, opening your hip. You can lean a bit forward. Push into that knee, opening your hip, exposing the sole of your right foot. And release. From here, you're going to lift your back leg, grab it with your right foot, grab it with your right hand, stretching your quad muscle. Just going to hold it for 1 or 2 seconds. And release that foot back down to the mat. Step forward, step your right leg back for the low lunge. Okay, so your right knee is on the mat. Your front or your left knee and shin forming a 90-degree angle with the mat. Placing your left hand on your left knee. Reach your right hand up towards the sky. Exhale and reach your hand over to your left side. Inhale and exhaling through your nose. We're going to stay here for 5 breaths. Stretching your side body all the way to your hip. Release that right hand back down to the mat. Using your left hand, push into your left knee, exposing the sole of your left foot, opening your hips, stretching the hip flexors. You're going to stay here for 5 breaths. And release. Bend your right knee, lift your foot, grab it with your left hand, stretch your quad muscle, pull your foot as close as you can to your butt, making sure to keep your hips square to the front of the mat. Don't let your left knee sway out to the side. Go there for 5 breaths. Keeping your right leg engaged, slowly drop that foot back to the mat. Okay, you can come into a seated position again. Sit in the middle of your mat. We're going to do some 90 or 90-degree window wipers. So place your hands behind your back, bend your knees. Bend your legs so they're at a 90-degree angle. Your right knee by your left foot. And then from here, we're going to swing them over to the other side, keeping your hips firm on the mat and in place. So we're going to do reps. That's 1, 2, 3. Go at your own pace. Make sure to keep your hips in place and your feet must stay in place. It's only your knees moving up and over, making sure that knee lands by your opposite foot every time and both knees touch the floor. 2 more. And release. Sitting again in that same position, both legs bent, right knee by your left foot. Place both hands on your left side, flex the foot of your right leg and lift it off the mat for 5 reps. 2, 3, 4. Lift that foot as high as you can. 5, 6. And hold when you're at the top of the lift and release. We're only doing 5. Swap over to the other side. Both hands on your right foot by your left knee. Flex your left foot, lift it as high as you can, hold it for 1 second and come back down. So 1, 2, keeping your foot flexed, 3, 4, 5 and hold, and relax down to the mat. Staying in the same position, we're going to do another exercise in this position. Okay, so you're sitting in your 90-degree seated position, and then from here, with your left hand on the mat, we're going to lift our hips off the floor. So we're going to go and lift, push them forward. 1, 2, push them as far forward as you can. Sit back all the way down to the mat. 3, 4, 5. This stretches your front hip muscles and the psoas. Okay, swap your legs, both at a 90-degree angle. Right foot by your left knee, your left hand, your right hand on the mat behind you, and lift your hips forward as much as you can and sit back down. 2, 3, 4. Make sure to push them as far out as you can. 5, 6. Okay, sit back in the middle of the mat. From here, we're going to come into a tabletop position. We're going to do hip circles in tabletop. So what you're going to do is Lift your left leg. Make a big circle, bring it out to the front. Bring it back down to the mat. Let the knees touch. Lift. Bring it out to the side, opening the hip and back down. You can go at your own pace, focusing on making nice big circles. That's 3, 4, and 5. Change to the other side. So from tabletop, lift your right knee, keeping your leg bent at a 90-degree angle. Open the hip, reaching it to the front. Close the hip, bringing it back to the original position. Knees together. Lift, open, close. Lift, open, close to the front. Okay, go at your own pace. We're going to do 5 reps. Okay, so from tabletop, you're going to lift both knees off the mat, coming into a high plank. Lift your right leg, swing it over to your back. Lift that right hand off the mat, reaching it over your head, pushing your hips forward, pushing hard into the mat with your left arm, and come back down to the mat. Bring your hand back down in a circular motion, back into a high plank. Okay, let me just swap to the other side. Now we're going to do the left leg. Come into a high plank. Lift your left leg, bend your knee, throw it over to the back of the mat until it touches the mat. Reach your left hand up, over your head, pushing your hips forward. This pose is called Wild Thing. Making sure to push hard into the mat with that right arm. And release back down to the mat. Bring your arm back down in a circular motion. Knees to the mat. Sit back onto your heels. Okay, you can sit on your mat with your legs bent and out in front of you. Lift your right knee. Place it on top of your left thigh. And then close the distance between your torso and your leg until you can feel the stretch in your right outer hip. So you're going to bring your chest as close as you can to your right leg. Inhale and exhaling through your nose. And release. Place your left foot on your right knee. And start closing the gap between your left leg and your chest. Inhale as you lengthen your spine. Exhale as you bring your chest closer to your left leg, walking your hands slowly forward, feeling a nice deep stretch in that outer left hip. We're just going to stay here for 5 breaths. And release. Lie back on the mat. Hug both your knees into your chest with your hands. Your head lifted off the mat with your neck relaxed. Make sure to hug your knees into your chest. This will stretch the muscles on the front of your hips and the psoas. And release. Place your feet as close as you can to your butt. Grab your ankles with your hands if you can. Otherwise, just place them on the mat as close as you can to your feet. And from here, we're going to inhale and lift our backs off the mat for bridge pose. Lift as high as you can, pushing your hips up, keeping your shoulders in contact with the mat. With your thighs fully engaged, you'll feel the muscles in the front of your hips stretching. Your leg muscles will feel sore because they're working hard here. Like I say, if you can grab your ankles, it will help you to deepen the stretch, give you some leverage, making sure your shoulders staying in contact with the floor, coming up onto your shoulders as high as you can, lifting your hips, and release back down to the mat. You can lie flat on the mat. You can stay lying flat on the mat. We're going to do a supine twist. So you're going to bend your left knee, place it next to your right, place your left foot next to your right knee, left hand extended to the side, take hold of your left knee and just assist it and bring it over to your right side towards the mat. Doesn't have to touch the mat, keeping that left arm in contact with the floor. You can turn your gaze either to the left or just keep it neutral. Gonna stay for 5 breaths. And release, straighten your left leg. Bring your right foot to your left knee. Left hand on your right knee. Without lifting your head, right arm extended to your side. Bring your right leg over with your knee trying to touch the mat. Left arm stays in contact with the mat. Exhale as you twist deeper. And release. From here we're going to turn around and move into child's pose. So for child's pose, sit back on your heels. Walk your hands forward, resting your chest on your thighs with your knees together, placing your forehead on the mat. We're going to stay here for 5 breaths. You can reach your hands as far forward as you can. Walk your hands back up. Open your hips as wide as your mat. Stay seated on your heels. From here, we're going to walk our hands forward again. This will help you to go deeper into child's pose, giving you a deeper stretch in your hips, resting either your forehead or your chin on the mat. And we're going to stay here for 10 breaths. And release. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and I'll see you next time.